First, it's cortisol imbalance, your stress hormone. Either it could be on a higher side or on a lower side as well. Your thyroid imbalance could be there, either hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. You may have low progesterone hormones. In case if your progesterone hormone is on lower side, how will you find out? You will see that your menstrual flow is very high, and you're getting those mid migraines also. What At times you get those estrogen dominance as well. That means your estrogen hormone is on higher side, specifically in cases of fibroids or endometriosis, or in case of depression, or if a female turns up and she says that she's again and again having brain fog, that means she's forgetting things. Which So that's a sign that your estrogen hormone is on a higher side. In case you're missing your periods or your period cycle is very irregular, like in young females, I see it's generally because of low estrogen hormones. And in case you have low sex drive, hot flushes, and depression, that is also a cause of low estrogen. Every hormone has a specific kind of symptom that it will show up, and then only one can recognize, like, yes, this is the hormone that's either on a higher side or on a lower side. In case when you have excess androgens, specifically in case of PCOS, you will see your blood sugar levels are also very irregular. You have acne, and you have male pattern of hair growth, like baldness you get, and you
Hmm.
get those facial hair growth. In case if a female says, my confidence level is very low and I'm trying very hard, I'm doing like workout also, I'm eating proteins, I'm taking creatinine, but still my muscle build is not there, I'm losing weight, and my muscle loss is majorly a muscle loss, that gives the idea that your androgens are on a lower side. Okay. In case if your any of your female client turns up and she says that, ma'am, for example, I'm putting on weight, I'm having constipation, my nails are very brittle, I'm having brain fog, and my skin is not that good, I'm having excessive hair fall. You will say, like, you are having thyroid symptom. So take a pill, or you straight away shift to the diet and say, add selenium, add chromium. That's it. Because you guys have the idea that thyroid gland needs these specific micronutrients. But no, first of all, every connection is with your brain. So your first important target is to be the brain. Your nutrition, your diet, your exercise has to revolve around a female brain health first. If the brain health is not up to the mark, and if the liver health is not up to the mark, you might give her endless diet plans, endless exercises, endless variations, but you won't get the result that you are working for. That's how I got into, because it's been 6 years. I've been just working on female health. I'm just working on hormones, and I'm reading more and more, going through researches, connected internationally also, so that I get that understanding. Ki what actually is missing. We are working for the female health, but still most of the females are not getting the result. Why? What is that loop? So this is where I find out you have three major axes: HPO axis, HPA axis, and HPT axis. And you will see the common is HP in this. HP is your hypothalamus, P stands for your pituitary, O stands for your ovarian axis. This is how your hormones are connected. Like your hypothalamus will give the command to pituitary organ, then pituitary gland will give the signal to the other glands, and this is how they'll release the specific hormones. HPA means hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. Adrenal axis is the one on the top of your kidney that releases your cortisol hormone, your stress hormone, and a small amount of estrogen and progesterone as well, female sex hormones. Mostly the ovaries produce, but a small amount your adrenal gland also produces. Next is HPT, that is hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis. So you will see the common is HP in that. What is actually the hypothalamus? Hypothalamus is in your brain. It's a link between your nervous system and the entire endocrine system. Okay, not just कि thyroid gland को handle कर रहा है या it's handling your pituitary or your growth hormone. No, it's handling the complete entire endocrine system. Next comes your, it gives signals to your pituitary to secrete the hormone. Pituitary gland, it's your master gland. It works for your adrenal function. It asks adrenal gland to produce the specific organ hormones, your sex organ function, your growth hormone, your prolactin, your thyroid, your antidepressant, your oxytocin. Everything is in hands of your pituitary. So now let's understand what actually is brain composition. You might be knowing earlier in our biology, we all have studied like you have gray membrane, white membrane, this is your memory area, this is your coordination area. But we haven't understood what actually is the brain composition when it comes in connection with the nutrition and food. So your brain is basic composition is fat. 60% is fat in it. Rest 40% is your protein, your carbs, your water, your vitamins and minerals. And your fat is basically your omega-3 fatty acid. 25% of the brain fat is your omega-3s. It helps not only in the inflammation to reduce the inflammation, but it improves the communication between your brain cells. Till the time your brain cells are not working up to the mark, there is no
Sorry,
point
Subbu.
of giving various supplementation and various exercises and diet. Till the time your brain health is not up to the mark. It is very important to give protein sources, and it should be basically your lean, preferably your fish or chicken, or you may also give to the vegan diet or those who are vegetarians, hemp seeds that have excellent amount of protein and calcium in it. Your carbs have to be basically complex carbs like your sweet potatoes and all you may give. And the most important, lutein is there. On every brain cell, on different parts, you will see that there is lutein. Lutein, we have studied it good for your eyes. But no, your brain is also made up of lutein. So it's a plant pigment found in the brain, and it food sources from which you can get is spinach, orange carrots, melon, and kiwi, specifically orange carrots. So, whenever you are planning a diet for a hormone imbalance female, so your diet should revolve around keeping in mind all these things like your omega-3 has to be there, your lutein has to be there, your vitamin D has to be there, your carbs basically from sweet potato, peas, they have to be there. Vitamin D is very important because it's not only for your bones, but it regulates your mood, your neurotransmitter. So it is there in your egg yolk, mushrooms, fatty fish. Then comes your minerals. Your calcium that's there in your sesame seeds, your zinc, your selenium, your copper. These four minerals are extremely important. In case if a patient says that, ma'am, I am having brain fog, I am not able to cope up with my stress. That's the reason we have to firstly make the brain composition strong. We have to work upon brain health rather than straight away jumping on the gland specific and or giving those synthetic medications or synthetic hormones that we give. After your brain health, now you will see the next important organ health that is important is liver. Why liver? All the things that you eat or you drink or you inhale or you absorb through your skin that passes through the liver for filtering and removal. But liver doesn't function like this. It functions in two phases. Like first, it liver transforms the toxins into the chemicals that's there from fat soluble to water soluble. And in second phase, what it does, it again changes into water soluble form and in more smaller form, so that it can filter it out, what's important, and attach amino acid to it. So in your diet, just a sec. Ma'am, my screen is visible.
Yes.
Just a second.
Yes, it's visual.
So it requires amino acid, basically your taurine, your cysteine, your glycine, your choline, inositols. These 4, 5 amino acids have to be there when you are planning the diet of any female client. Because until and unless your body does not have this 4 amino acids, your liver health won't be able to perform its function. So, cysteine is present in your eggs, glycine is there in your seeds and chicken, your choline is specifically in your egg yolk, your inositols are basically in your cantaloupe, citrus fruits, and sesame. So, why I am again and again focusing on liver health? Because the major function when it comes to the female hormones, what it does, it breaks down your estrone, your estradiol, and estrol. These are three types of estrogen into their specific metabolites and convert bad estrogen, that is 16 alpha hydroxyestrone, to good estrogen, 2 hydroxyestrogen. Because whatever females or what we think, like there is just one estrogen that we have to do and it's always good estrogen. No, your body doesn't work like this. It has more of bad estrogen as compared to your good estrogen, so your liver converts that thing. Now, where does the problem comes while handling the case? Either the liver is very overwhelmed due to medication, drugs, and alcohol. When it comes to your PCOS or when it comes to your periods, I've seen most of the females, they take those medications, pain relieving, and they say, no, no, there won't be any side effect to it. But no, definitely it affects your liver up to a certain level. And when we do HRT, when females take HRT, in few cases I've seen that it does affect the conversion and the functioning of the liver. So next, what the problem we come across is your glutathione depletion. If your glutathione is depleted, which is a very powerful antioxidant, your phase 2 won't be able to do its job properly. So it will be lead to more inflammation, weight gain, poor thyroid function, and leaky gut. Next, what we come across, the gallbladder dysfunction. If your gallbladder is not functioning, then also your liver health will be affected. Gallbladder dysfunction, why it happens? Due to hypothyroidism, your obesity, estrogen dominance leading to bitter taste after meals, bloating, light color stool. That's all the symptoms when your gallbladder is not functioning properly. Next is your GI tract inflammation. Your gut health is not working properly. Either you have gut dysbiosis or leaky gut or IBS issues. Then also your liver won't be able to function to its best. Fifth is your fatty liver. As you know, high carb diet always. It's not every time, it's not the alcohol to be blamed. In our case, mostly what I see in North or in India, our diet basically, we all know, revolves around carbs, specifically simple carbs. So in case of fatty liver, your phase 2 is the most important phase that's affected. What we can do for your liver health? Your liver, every organ has its own pH and composition. Your liver is basically alkaline. For example, female vaginal health, your vaginal health is acidic in nature. Your stomach is acidic, but your intestines and your liver health is alkaline in nature. So, how to maintain that alkaline nature of your liver? First thing, protein as you all know, I've already said that has to be there. Vitamin C is very important for your liver health. Your beets and radish, what they do, they move that sluggish and thick bile. As you age, as you cross 35 to 40, you will see that there is a difference in bile also. Your body, your liver might be producing good bile, but yes, it turns very thick and sluggish. If you eat your beets and your radish, it changes the bile. Next, malic acid that is found in apple, that's excellent for your liver health, and cucumber that creates the alkaline environment. You can also suggest to go for green juice that is basically including your beets, your malic, your apple, and cucumber. That works best in case when you want to when you're working for female hormones and you are focusing on liver health. That's the best use rather than going on those detox waters. They also work. I'm not saying that won't work, but the best juice that you can always suggest to your female client is the combination of this. Thrice a week they should have this. So now the next major thing I want to talk about is menopause, where I've already discussed like liver health and brain health. That works for in case you get your infertility patients, in case you get your PCOS, PCOD, or any sort of hormonal imbalance. So you have to keep in mind brain health and liver health. Now, let me talk about menopause. That's a different phase in the life. What I believe, it's a beautiful phase. It gives you a confidence, but there's always a but. It's not that smooth like we feel, and it's not easy nowadays. I have come across in my practice a female in her 30s, 30, 34, they are getting early menopause because of the different I must say xenoestrogens that's there in the environment, that's there in your shampoos, that there in your creams, those fancy creams that we buy. It's more important to read the ingredients. When you see that your cream has too many ingredients, or your nail paint, or your cosmetic, or any food that you're putting in your mouth, when you see you are not able to understand those ingredients, it's better to avoid that. As simple as that. This is the best thing that you can do to preserve your balance your hormones, and stop entering into that perimenopause phase which most of the females now are facing. So, menopause is basically divided into three categories. As we all know, it's perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. What basically are the short term changes that we come across is your menstrual cycle changes. Around the age of 40, chances are there that either the length changes, either it's shorter or longer. The moment you understand that your periods are just there for 2 days, no, it's not normal. In case you see that the bleeding is going on 8th day, 9th day, and estimately about 80 ml on the average, then you know that your bleeding is going on a higher side. You need to work on something. Yes, you are having premenopausal symptoms. Periods may become your lighter, heavier, painful, less painful, mid-cycle bleeding, especially at the stage of your ovulation. You might have 2, 3 drops or few clots. If bleeding increases continuously beyond 80 ml, that in that case you have to consult your gynec, because in that case you might be suffering from any sort of fibroids. Hot flushes at night, it's basically when your estrogen levels drop. This affects how the brain regulates body temperature. Again, understand your brain health is very important. This may make the body think it is too hot, so we sweat to reduce the temperature. Everyone goes through hot flushes and all. It's very common, very extremely common symptom I've come across. Affects your mood. At times you feel irritated. At times you feel like you need to cry. There is no damn reason for it, but yes, you feel anxiety. You have those panic attacks. You have those mood swings. That is basically because of your low serotonin levels. When your estrogen levels goes on a lower side, it affects each and every I must say, like your specific hormones. Each and every, your thyroid gland is affected, your mood hormones, your brain is affected, your your temperature regulating thyroid gland is affected, everything gets affected. And specifically, your genital and urinary changes are there. Most of the cases you will see that females are having again and again UTI. This is because when there is a low in your estrogen levels, it changes the mucus. Earlier, our mucus was thick, if you'll say. See, that white discharge was a bit thicky. But when you enter 35 or 40, you will see it's more of a watery. And plus, the acidic pH level has changed. It has become more of alkaline. The moment it changes in the pH changes into alkaline, the lactobacillus bacteria vanishes off. So that is the reason that female complain more and more. Again, they think that they have used public toilets. That's the reason. Yes, that is the reason. That could be a reason, but the major thing is that like your pH has changed. That's the reason that you're again and again. So it is very important for those females to change their panties, to go for cotton panties and stop using that coconut oil inside their vulva. They can obviously put it outside layer, but inside, stop putting inside. That I've seen most of the females, they come to me and they say, ma'am, is it safe to use coconut oil? I say, no, no, no. On the outer layer, yes, you may apply that just to improve the texture so that it's not flaky or dry, but don't put it inside your genital areas. Sexual difficulties, most important is your painful sex. It's there. Your joint and muscle pain is there. Your headache is there. All is because of your low estrogen. Your weight gain is there. And long-term changes that we come across is your osteoporosis, your bone density is affected, your cardiovascular health, it changes, your urinary, you're not able to hold the urine, your pelvic muscles gets very weak. So it is important to go for those pelvic floor exercises for every female who is about to enter that perimenopause or is entering menopause or have already entered menopause. It's very important on regular basis to do those pelvic floor exercises. Now, what the diet should be for menopause, in case of menopause or perimenopause, your diet should revolve around iron. You may include red meats in your diet, eggs, leafy greens, nuts. In case if you're having heavy periods, it's very important to increase the iron intake more than 8 mg. Tryptophan, an essential amino acid that helps produce serotonin, that is your mood, that improves your mood and your sleep hormone, found in bananas, sesames, eggs, and sunflower seeds. Basically, when you ask me, if you ask me ki which two seeds are the best for female, I'll say pumpkin and sunflower seeds. That work best. In case if you suggest more of flax seeds, it gives more of inflammation. It produces more of hot flushes. In my practice, I've known, though in theoretical, it's completely different. But when we practice, I've seen sunflower and pumpkin seeds works best for the females. Your fiber has to be 21 grams per day. You may use millets or fresh fruits. Your calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K. In case your patient is not able to include everything in the diet, so stop scaring them that you don't require any supplement. Yes, you need supplement. If you're not taking anything on regular basis, if you're not consistent with your diet, you have to take help of supplement. Supplement is nothing to be scared of. It's something that supports the system. It supports your diet, it supports your health, it supports your brain health, it supports your heart health, it supports your everything. So there is no point to be getting scared of. This is the slide of mirror that I work with. We are working on pan-India level. We work on specifically perimenopause, menopause women. We are about to create a app to track in case you are having early menopause or not. We have the largest community where we help women to talk, because when you enter this stage, the basically you're psychologically exhausted. You need someone to share your thoughts, and we don't have anyone, or in case most of them are living in nuclear families. That's why it's early menopause. That's why it's early symptoms that we all are facing. So there is a community 24/7. There are females out there, there are health experts out there to support you, to listen to you, and to understand your condition. So, my take home message for each and every female and for each and every dietitian or a physician who is working on female health, we have to create a discipline when it comes to food choice. It's not like you have the diversity, they won't understand what's important for them. You need to have proper meal timing so that your brain get used to it, so that it's not going either. Most of the times I've seen they females, they at times they take their breakfast at 9, at times they'll eat at 11, at times when they don't feel like, they'll straight away jump to that lunch timings, and they'll say, ma'am, we had brunch, we don't feel like. No, 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 you have to work according to your circadian rhythm, and you have to make sure that your brain gets the signal, and it gives signals to other organs to produce specific hormone at that specific timing, and you get in certain discipline. Understand the right supplement knowledge, we have to provide it to them, and we have to.
Khushboo, can I request you to wind up fast,
Yes,
please?
ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, and engage in exercises that works for your brain health. Yeah, like your breathing exercise is very important for your brain health. I'm not asking to go for that advanced one, just simple breathing exercise, and that balasana or child pose works excellent for your brain health. Your sleep has to be adequate enough. Your self hygiene and self care is very important, and prioritize your me time to balance your hormones. Thank you so much. I hope I made my point clear. And yes, please.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Dietitian Khushboo Agarwal. It was exhaustive, I must say, and we need some other session to take up on it. And without wasting any more time, I would like to welcome our another speaker, Dr. Manjari Chandra, who's going to talk about malnutrition and what does nutrition support achieve. We are indeed honored to have you here because she has what I was when I was chatting before the conversation. She has already published two books, interesting books, Eat Up and Clean Up, Heal Up with Foods, and the third one I think you should be telling, Doctor. She's a honorary doctorate and works at consultant at Max Healthcare, functional nutrition practice, and nutritional medicine. So her CV is so exhaustive. I'm sure we will like to take more, but without wasting time, I would like you to just straight bang on your presentation. Over to you, Dr. Manjari.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rao. It's absolute honor to be here. Thank you. My thanks to ma'am, Anita Chitana ma'am. Thank you for having me here and including me in the GAPIO presentations and sessions. I'm going to, I know we have paucity of time, so I'm going to quickly jump into what we're talking about today. Khushboo took us through a very exhaustive presentation on hormones, and one of the things that supports human health, aging, and longevity is hormones for sure. But there's a lot more to longevity. So let me just first quickly take you through what is it that, one second, please. We even want to measure when we want to talk about longevity. If you look at longevity, there is a way of measuring longevity. What do I mean by longevity? I'm basically saying that a person lives longer and more healthier. And healthier essentially means lack of disability and disease. It means potential to perform most of your duties and regular work as you can do, a sense of wellness, a sense of complete complete cognition, no decline in neurological or cognitive abilities. So longevity can be measured, and it can be measured through various forms of biomarkers. And this is a exhaustive list of biomarkers, but let me just quickly walk you through some of the very crucial ones. Now, DNA methylation. Our DNA, the methyl group is attached to the cytosine group of the DNA, and that methylation is a very, very important part of aging. Appropriate methylation is important for multiple pathways, and we'll talk about how methylation affects longevity. But I'll first take you through the nutritional pathways that affect methylation. We've heard of the MTHFR pathway. Most of us know about it. So that's one. Telomere length, the ends of our chromosomes, the telomeres are getting shortened as we age. And the length of your telomeres is an important deciding factor for aging and longevity. There are a lot of genetic risk profiling that can be done. For example, just measuring one of these ApoE. We know that a marker for Alzheimer's is your ApoE gene. And so there are multiple markers that can predict disease predisposition. They can predict neurological predisposition for diseases also, besides the metabolic and malignancy that we talk about. So there are genetic and epigenetic markers. There's a difference between genetics and epigenetics. And epigenetics is more controlled by your environment. Genetics is what was given to us by our parents and grandparents, of course. And that's essentially, we're looking at genes, we're looking at phenotype, genotype, and those pathways. The second group of biomarkers that define longevity are, molecular markers, cellular markers. Simple examples would be, for example, we have an autophagy marker, which is the SIRT markers. So SIRT genes in our body are controlling longevity. They are basically housekeeping genes. If I have good functioning SIRT, that means that the housekeeping is good, which means that the free radical load, the reactive oxygen species are taken care of, longevity is ensured. Similarly, how your body makes ATP, what pathway is used in the acetyl coenzyme A thing, whether your fats are broken down into ATP in the mitochondria, or you're primarily dependent on carbohydrates, the amount of reactive oxygen species formed, the amount of oxidative stress that we experience, all these are measurable biomarkers for longevity. There are many other biomarkers, of course. So let's do the next set. Just 1 second. Yeah. So now these are blood-based biomarkers. We know that eventually, when we look at longevity as a holistic thing, there are multiple other things in the body that are overall contributing to longevity. How's your metabolic health? How's your lipid profile? How are your hormones? How much is the inflammation, whether it's manifesting in a suboptimal chronic condition in your body? So these blood markers, for example, inflammation markers, the high sensitivity C-reactive protein, the interleukin-6, TNF-alpha, we all know these are inflammation markers. They can be markers for both acute and chronic inflammation. Metabolic health markers, so the HOMA-IR, which is essentially a calculated score of your insulin resistance, which is done by using your fasting sugar, fasting insulin, and your HbA1c levels. Your triglyceride to HDL ratio, which should ideally be less than 1.5, is also a very important metabolic health marker. Lipid markers, for example, beyond the LDL, HDL, VLDL, we're looking at genetic markers of lipids. We're looking at lipoprotein little a, we're looking at ApoA, ApoB ratios, the LDL particle size and particle numbers. These are markers that can talk about longevity and aging in a more widened spectrum than just the basic lipid profile can. Of course, hormones, especially stress hormones, adrenal hormones, the DHEA sulfur, insulin-like growth factors, of course, we know that it's a major marker for aging. In thyroid, though we primarily talk of hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism, there's much more to it. We're looking at at reverse T3. We're also looking at the antibodies for thyroid, which is the thyroid peroxidase antibodies and thyroglobulin antibodies. These are also become markers for longevity. So these are all biomarkers. Besides that, there are some biomarkers that can, talk about specific parts of longevity, neurological decline, brain health. So you have brain-derived neurotropic factor, which can be measured. Your homocysteine levels can be measured easily in a blood work, and they are a marker of your cardiac health and your neurological health. Besides that, your omega-3 index, the ApoE gene again, and the susceptibility of the ApoE gene to express itself. Folic acid, vitamin D levels in the body are extremely important because we know that folic acid has a role in methylation and in the certain pathways also. Besides that, other markers, vitamin D, of course, we know. Your estimated glomerular filtration rate is also an important marker of your musculoskeletal health. Then there are immune cell markers that we can use, the NK cell, the subprofiling of thymus cells can be done. So these are all comprehensive biomarkers. But longevity is not just dependent on hormone health, metabolic health, neurological health, or immune health. It is also dependent on many lifestyle factors. So your longevity is also a function of psychological, psychosocial, and lifestyle matrices. How many social connections do I have? What sort of, connect do I have? Do I live in very individualized, localized, lonely life, or I'm more socially connected? What is the purpose in well-being? What is sleep quality? Of course, we know physical activity. We also know that we have an autonomic nervous system, and you require certain types of practices to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what will ensure that you have better cardiac health, better neurological health, circadian rhythm, the substances abuses that happen. We're now talking of not just overt things like smoking and alcohol and drugs. We're also talking, like Khushboo spoke about, xenoestrogens. We're talking of all the additives and chemicals that are changing our physiology and affecting every bioregulatory pathway in the body. So this is overall how longevity can be measured today and for these also, like for example, let's take an example of physical activity. The amount of physical activity that a person does is also measurable, because you can measure heart rate variability, you can measure VO2 max. There are wearables now that can measure your peak performance. So your sleep can be measured. You can calculate how much of REM sleep you had, how much of deep sleep, light sleep you got, your total hours of sleep. So everything is measurable also. And we can measure stress now. We know HRV is a marker of stress. So all of these can also be measured and therefore can be used as matrices for longevity. That's, of course, the introduction for longevity. Let's go through how nutrition has a role to play. So I've just picked up some very important pathways of longevity and the nutritional components of that. Let's look at the first important pathway. We know that nicotinamide dinucleotide, the synthesis of which is required for your aging to slow down. As we age, your body makes less and less of the NAD plus. And the lesser the NAD plus, the accelerated the aging is. And this pathway has already been established over multiple research platforms. Now, NAD plus, the synthesis of NAD plus is completely dependent on vitamin B3. Vitamin B3 has various forms, niacin, nicotinamide. There's also NMN now, which is a precursor to NAD. You get NMN supplements, you get NAD supplements now, besides just taking niacin. So vitamin B3 has a major and very important role to play in the bioregulatory synthesis of NAD plus. And NAD plus, the amount of NAD plus in your body, it's actually a coenzyme, is a very clear marker of aging, because lower levels of NAD mean accelerated aging. And it's even regular aging shows that our NAD levels keep declining as we age. So B3 becomes an important component. Many of us are low in our B3 consumption because, refined, processed, milled, canned, tinned food is normally depleted of micronutrients, especially B vitamins. The other thing about B3 and NAD is that NAD plus is now, when you look at the CERT pathways which we're looking at, which are the housekeeping pathways which NAD plus controls. Now, these certain pathways are actually associated with various functions in the body, reducing oxidative stress, improving DNA repair. So whatever loss has happened to DNA, the repair happens better in the presence of NAD+. Dysfunction, mitophagy, the loss of mitochondrial dysfunction is also connected to levels of NAD+. So there are pathological and there are various formats of functions in the body that NAD directly is involved in. And these functions are actually overall controlled by our genes called the sirtuin genes. And a very, very important set of genes from SIRT1 to SIRT7. And these we'll go and see a little more in detail later how and what they control in the body. So that's for the NAD plus and the sirtuin pathways and the essential requirement for vitamin B3. The next important pathway is the folic acid pathway, which is the DNA methylation pathway. Now, there is an MTHFR pathway. This is the MTHFR pathway. What is happening is that methionine, basically, there is a transfer of the methyl group from methionine to homocysteine. Now what happens is there's something called SAM which is formed, and this is a universal methyl donor. Folic acid or folate is required to convert the dietary folic acid that we eat into the active form, which is the 5-methyl THF. Now, this 5-methyl or the methyl group that is going to transfer, it is an important marker, and a lot of us, because we are low in folic acid, in fact, we know that in pregnancy, for one of the first supplements that is given is folic acid, because it is extremely essential for methylation to happen in the body. And then we'll also talk about how fetal changes in DNA methylation pathways can affect the outcomes of pregnancy. But so the vitamins that become important are not just folate, but B12 also is a cofactor for methionine synthesis. So both B12 and vitamin B9, which is folic acid, are important. Besides homocysteine, which we know has a direct correlation with cardiac events and cardiovascular changes in the body, the DNA methylation, if there is hypomethylation, it is also linked to mutagenic changes in the DNA, making us more susceptible to tumors and malignancies and all forms of cancer. So the second important pathway that we're talking about today is methylation, DNA methylation, which is dependent on folic acid and also dependent on vitamin B12. Some of the very common, deficiencies that we see today. This is just like we all know this, but just for information, if somebody wants to take a screenshot. The next pathway is vitamin D. So vitamin D is not just something that you need for immunity or you need for skeletal health or muscular health. Vitamin D is actually an important marker of longevity, and reduced vitamin D levels, which is again a very common deficiency we see today, is not just putting you at a high risk for changes in bone and skeletal and muscular health. It is also putting you at a high risk for cardiometabolic disease, high risk for immune resistance, the immune patterns changing in the body. In fact, the death of the immune system to some extent, especially the one that is present in the gut. And what happens is when we take vitamin D3 in the dietary form, or we absorb it in the skin through the ultraviolet B rays, it is actually converted in the liver into the D3 format, which is 3 hydroxyl groups in vitamin D, and that is the active format of vitamin D3. This whole conversion is dependent on multiple things. And exposure to sunlight is not the only important thing to ensure that you're getting an essential amount of vitamin D. You have to have a functioning liver for the D3 to become, for D2 to become effective and become converted into D3, which is what can be used up by the body. Also with vitamin D3, we know of the calcium phosphate homeostasis, of course, but vitamin D is also linked to gene transcription. So the transcription of protein from genes is also dependent on vitamin D, and the receptors for vitamin D exist on the transmit and on the gene transcription pathways. So that's for the vitamin D. We're talking of here this, essentially we're looking at vitamin D for not just bone and immune health and cardiovascular health. We're also looking at it for effective gene transcription and making the right type of proteins in the body. The fourth thing that I wanted to talk about in longevity is the antioxidant defense systems. Now, we know that our body makes naturally the reactive oxygen species, also commonly called as free radicals, which we intrinsically, there are systems in the body which can be neutralized intrinsically by the body. But there are certain micronutrients that can ensure that the ROS load is lesser, the free radical load is lesser, the oxidative stress is lesser. And that is, of course, antioxidants. We know about vitamin C and vitamin E. That's everybody knows about it. A very important and very key part of aging is oxidative stress. And if there is oxidative stress, it will accelerate the loss of telomeres from DNA and chromosomes. It will also not allow new mitochondria to be formed. It will cause mitochondrial dysfunction. Of course, inflammation is part of having high load of oxidation in the body. So yeah, so cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease, all of it is directly linked to the amount of oxidative stress in the body, amount of free radicals in the body. So you reduce the reactive oxidative species, and these reactive oxygen species, as I was trying to say, can of course be controlled to some extent by our body, because our body has systems to neutralize them. But taking good amount of antioxidants ensures that we have a high load of antioxidants, reducing the free radical load overall. These, of course, we already know, but just a little thing here. One of the most neglected vitamins is vitamin K1 and K2. One of the most important sources is, of course, fermented food, which gives us vitamin K1 and K2. And bacteria naturally make good bacteria in your gut when you don't have gut dysbiosis. Some of the commensal bacteria can naturally make K1 and K2 in our body. And vitamin K1, K2, again, highly crucial for longevity. One of the important pathways that it controls is the matrix GLA protein. So essentially vascular calcification and degradation of bones is something that is dependent on vitamin K, and that is where it becomes very crucial. So if there is not enough vitamin K in the body, there are more chances of calcification of our arteries in the vascular system, and there's more chance of loss of minerals from the bone. So those become very crucial to ensure that you age in a way that there are no changes, osteoporotic changes or osteopenic changes, and there is no calcification leading to any cardiac event going forward. So that's where vitamin K becomes crucial. There are also some minerals which are super important when we look at longevity. One of them is selenium. Selenium is also extremely important for your thyroid function. But besides that, selenium is a part of many of these, proteins that are human proteins and are dependent on selenium. They are in fact called selenoproteins, and they are in the messenger RNA. Some of these proteins are, for example, glutathione. For that, you require glutathione peroxidase, and that peroxidase enzyme is dependent on selenium levels in the body. So similarly, many other enzymes which are required for these selenoproteins are dependent on selenium levels that in our body. Plasma selenium, of course, can be measured. It's a measurable thing. You can do it with a blood work. It can be done with an oligoscan, which is spectrophotometer scan. Selenium also has a role in neurological and cognitive decline. It's directly linked to Alzheimer's. And that's why when we are able to identify somebody with an ApoE gene and an active ApoE status, we ensure that, that there is a bolus dose of selenium given to those people. Zinc again, now zinc is one of the minerals that not only reduces inflammation in the body and reduces the oxidative stress, it has been directly found to be a part of the bioregulatory systems to reduce the cytokines in our body, especially the cytokines that happen when acute inflammation happens. So whether it's interleukin 6, TNF alpha. Besides that, zinc is, you know, that it's a cofactor. So over 300 enzymes in the body are dependent on zinc for their functioning. It also becomes a catalyst in many bioregulatory systems. So zinc extremely crucial for longevity. Magnesium also extremely crucial. One of the important pathways here is that when you look at the magnesium, it actually combines with the ATP, making something called the magnesium ATP complex. And it stabilizes the ATP and the GTP. It is also important because multiple enzymes, especially the polymerase enzymes, the enzymes that cause the breakage or clean breakage of DNA and RNA, the polymerase enzymes are dependent on magnesium. Besides that, magnesium is also important because now we know that magnesium is a predictive, the serum levels of magnesium are predictive markers for various chronic conditions, whether it's type 2 diabetes, whether it's cardiovascular mortality, also frailty and muscle function going forward. We also know that magnesium is super important for neurological health and for stabilizing our nervous system. So there. These are just the sources. Calcium, I'm not going to go through calcium and iodine in detail. I actually wanted to quickly take you through the most important part of the presentation, which is what are the pathways that we are looking at in longevity. And one of them is the epigenetic pathway, which is the methylation pathway. Now, if you look at DNA methylation and the fact that the methyl group has to be added to cytosine in the DNA, it becomes an extremely crucial pathway for so many chronic and changes in our body that are not just linked to a metabolic health, but also linked to malignancy, neurological, cardiovascular health. So let's have a look at what are these things. We of course know that we require vitamin B in various formats for DNA methylation to happen. Folic acid, B9 we discussed, B12 we discussed. We also know that niacin is very important for sirtuin activity. So when methylation happens properly, you're able to ensure that these conditions, inflammation, cancer, osteoporosis, neurodegenerative diseases, diabetes, other forms of metabolic diseases can be kept at bay. So DNA methylation becomes the base of ensuring that that longer life, when we look at longevity, is not just a life which is long, but it's free of these common chronic diseases that most people end up with after a certain stage or age in life. So whether it is, of course, besides DNA methylation, there's so many other epigenetic pathways like histones, the miRNA-induced changes, which is the transcription changes, chromatin changes also, of course, affect these. But DNA methylation is a very important part, and that's why folic acid supplementation, if required and not taken in adequate amounts by diet, can be a major game changer for people. I'm not going through this. Sirtuins, just last word here. Sirts, just to understand what is sirtuins, basically genes and sort of, things that do a housekeeping. If you understand housekeeping in the human body, it essentially means everything else beyond digestion, assimilation, and basic running of the body. So basic anabolism, catabolism, beyond that, what is happening, which is correction of our hormones, reducing inflammation, reducing insulin resistance, improving mitochondrial function, causing the death of decaying, misbehaving, malperforming cells, autophagy, DNA maintenance, generation of more mitochondria. All of this is housekeeping. And this housekeeping is controlled by our certain genes, which are dependent on, as I was trying to say, NAD+. So nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide is something that is crucial for housekeeping and certain activity. And we know that it's completely dependent on vitamin B3. Niacin is what is required for NAD to be made. Besides niacin, certain polyphenols like quercetin, curcumin also have a contribution there. Just finishing, Vaishakji, just another moment. This is just a list of antioxidants that have a great role to play in longevity. Yeah, that's it from my end. So just to sum this up, what we're talking about is longevity. And longevity is measurable, and there are pathways that are nutritionally controlled. And that's where nutrition can play a huge role. In fact, it plays a role on a day-to-day basis. So aging, anti-aging, longevity, whatever be these larger terms or, umbrella terms, eventually they boil down to bioregulatory systems. And those systems are not just managed, but also controlled and are actually dependent on nutritional status. And that's why nutrition becomes such a big denominator of longevity. Thank you.
I must truly appreciate the effort, and in such a small limited time you could cover new terminologies. It was indeed a learning experience, and in fact both the speakers were so good in their subject matter that we wish that we have a little longer sessions to learn about it. If there are any questions, I had requested to be put in chat box. I would like to sum up this session, but before that, I want you to just give us a one point of message so that how longevity is going to be a shortcut for longevity. There's no shortcut, we know, but important take points. I have made my notes, which I will also end before we close for the session, but just a quick one so that those who have missed can sum it up. First to Dr. Dietitian Khushboo, and then Dr. Manjari. Anyone can take turns.
Yeah, I'll just summarize it this way, like your brain health, as my topic was, your brain health and your liver health is extremely important. I understand your gut health is also important. Your sleep cycle, your circadian rhythm, everything is important. But yes, getting into discipline and taking care of your stress hormone, taking care of your brain health and liver health is extremely important when it comes to your diet, when it comes to your exercise, when it comes to detoxification of both the things. If you meditate, you detoxify your brain. And if you drink those alkaline juice, the one I suggested of cucumber, beets, radish and apple, you detoxify your liver health. So yes, that's the key to balance your hormones, I believe.
That's a good point.
Well summed.
Over to you, Dr. Manjari.
Yeah. So essentially, we'll think longevity is a very alien sort of a non-understood, very, just thrown sort of a word, but that's not true. The thing is, it's an overarching theme. What it is trying to say is that if I do optimal practices on a daily basis, of course, which includes circadian rhythm, psychosocial connections, a sense of purpose, the right format of physical activity, not burn myself out in the gym, and ensure that nutrition also matches up. And when I look at nutrition, I am, of course, going down to antioxidants, minerals, vitamins. if you're able to support human biology, physiology, bioregulatory systems, hormones, immune function, neurological systems, which is all what nutrition has capability of doing, longevity is a natural outcome of it, so it's not something that we need to necessarily aim for. It's like having great weight. If I do the right things, I'll naturally carry the correct weight on my body. And the absence of disease and a long disease-free life, which longevity means, is essentially boiling down to these basic parameters, but there's a little bit of more technicality to it. How, as professionals, we can approach it is that, most of our population is low on very crucial micronutrients. Most of our food is devoid of, thanks to the way we eat today, devoid of these essential polyphenols and antioxidants. And ensuring that people go back and consume that would take care of a lot of these bioregulatory pathways.
Manjari, can I just, any one magic bullet?
Vitamin B, I think, ma'am, the lesser said, the more important it is, and a lot of us don't consume, we just stick to calcium and we stick to vitamin D supplements, sometimes magnesium and other things also. But a good complex vitamin B with the right amount, most of these B complex vitamins, I'm not saying supplement is the only option, but in case you need a supplement, ensure that there are therapeutic amounts. Sadly, FSSAI does not allow us to make supplements which have very high doses of these. And mostly you may have a B complex, but the dosing of the individual Bs would be so low that it will not have a therapeutic effect on the body. So ensuring that you have your B12 separately, or whatever form of B12 or B6 or B9 your body requires. And if you can identify specifically, you can check folic acid, you can check all your B vitamins. I think that would be a major thing, at least to start with, ma'am.
Okay. I thought you'd say something else, but this is a very surprising answer. So you're saying that we all need supplements, or if we are taking a well-balanced meal, we should be all right?
I'm not saying we all need supplements, but if we want to get the right type of B vitamins, then the nuts, the whole lentils, the beans, the lots of vegetables have to come into the picture. Many times good fats also, which we so sometimes it may become limiting for people, and that's where the supplement may come in. But definitely it's not a
A
necessity.
quick one. Sorry to interrupt, but before
Yes.
we would have closed, but I can see a quick question. So let's, you can take it, Dr. Manjari. The participant wants to know, should we consume multivitamin supplement, or because you spoke highly about B complex regularly? So what is it, multivitamin or B complex?
Yeah, so we were saying B complex for longevity, but this whole, sorry to say, but this whole milieu of multivitamins that we get today, it's quite an eyewash, because the composition of these multivitamins that are sold as a one solution for everything doesn't do much for your body. Most of these are not bioavailable. The doses are very little and they don't act up the way they should be. If you're doing something called filling a gap or doing a loading dose, then higher doses have to be taken. And individual minerals and vitamins as required and identified should be consumed, of course, only for a limited time.
Yes, agreed. Great.
Very well.
Yeah, good input.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, good inputs from both our speakers. And hearing to this, it's not only macronutrients and micronutrients, but we have to go to old age science, to genetic, epigenetic, and move on to our body cycles. And let's learn more and more from these topics. And they are the upcoming topics. And yes, ma'am, would you like to add?
I think somebody's asked for the mail IDs. I think and Khushboo, I'll request you to put your mail IDs in the chat, please.
Both the speakers, I request, please put in because I'm sure there will be a call to us later on. Yeah.
Connect with you directly.
So longevity is a need of the hour. Good nutrition support team is going to help us and benefit each one of us, so that when we age, why not age healthily and stay longer and longer, healthier and happier. So with this, I would like to close the session officially, formally. Apologies for the delay, what happened in between and disconnect, but it kept us connected. And I'm sure in this GAPIO platform, it's always there more learnings, and we'll catch up in some forum again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Would
Thank you for evening.
thank Dr. Nanda Kumar Jairam, who's the president GAPIO and the organizing chief of GAPIO, for this opportunity, and to Dr. Sushil Jain, who's always there helping and guiding me. Big thanks to our esteemed speakers, Manjari and Khushboo. A big thank you to you for this very excellent and enlightening session. Really a lot of take-home messages for all of us. And Varsha, big thank you to you for coordinating it all. And
It's always a pleasure to be in this forum.
for being here on a evening, busy day. And a big thank you to Jitinder and the IT. Despite the errors and the hiccups, I think we made it through. But we lost a few of our participants because of the link problems. Big thank you again.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you, everyone.